Hi, my name is Alyssa Miller, and I like to talk about movies. And today we are going to be talking about my most anticipated movie of the year, Anora. This movie has been on my radar since I saw those adorable photos of Sean Baker posing with his Palme d'Or at Cannes this year, and I knew I had to see this. Also, it has a stamp of approval from Greta Gerwig, where she's saying this is like the most transformative movie of the year. And so, I have to listen to Mother Greta. That is the law. Before we get into my thoughts and my breakdown of this entire movie, if you could leave a like, comment, subscribe, I would really appreciate it. And if you're already subscribed, oh my gosh, you deserve your own Palme d'Or. You can also follow my escapades through cinema on my letterbox. But enough about me, let's get into this movie. Written, directed, and edited by Sean Baker, Anora follows Annie, an exotic dancer in Brighton Beach, and her fairy tale gone sour. Inspired by the Russian-American community in that general area, and also Mikey Madison's performance in Scream and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where yes, she does catch on fire in both of them. Baker crafted an extremely smart screwball comedy that has some intense sorrow boiling beneath its surface. Baker has been steadily earning his American auteur status ever since movies like Tangerine and The Florida Project. But I truly believe that Anora is gonna solidify his name as an American auteur. If we had to think about the 5 big American auteurs right now in cinema, definitely Sean Baker is one of the foundational people, even if he hasn't made a massive blockbuster movie. I don't think he ever will, and I don't think he has to, because hello, the work speaks for itself. Baker's style is distinctly American neorealism, which yes, borrows heavily from the Italian neorealism movement, and that it focuses on the struggles and the aspirations of the working class. And while he's been criticized for making a lot of poverty porn, I would argue that Baker approaches his subject matter with a deep empathy to get people to understand these are very human stories that are unfolding, that are extremely relatable, no matter your class, no matter your status, no matter anything. What he's doing is putting a spotlight on a community that is often overlooked or shunned or demonized by American society. Anora marks his 5th feature that is talking about sex work. And if you're new to his filmography, I don't know what to tell you, this is his bread and butter. His goal in these movies is to destigmatize sex work and make you realize that's actual real work. And while I don't know a ton about Baker and his backstory, I know that he works really closely with the communities that he's telling stories about and helps shape these stories to have the distinct nuances and the flavor of depth to them that they end up having. What I adore about Anora is that it tackles a lot of the similar themes that Baker has strewn throughout his entire filmography, but there's a level of care that you can just feel in every single frame. And while this is definitely his most plot-heavy movie, most plot-driven for sure, Mikey Madison's portrayal of Annie is it's cinematic. There's a reason there's Oscar buzz behind this movie, and sure, definitely I think it'll get Best Picture, but if Miss Maggie Madison does not get that nod for Best Actress, I will be fighting. I will be throwing fists. While Anora is definitely about Annie and her Cinderella story gone sour, this movie really captures the myth and mythos of the American dream for everybody across all social structures. For Annie, her dream is to have enough money to live a decent life and to just not have to worry about making enough money to survive day to day. And for Ivan, who is played by the incredibly charming and charismatic Mark Edelston, his American dream is literally just to stay in America and avoid all his responsibilities back home in Russia waiting for him. And so when those two worlds collide, sure, they're a match made in a weird kind of heaven. I would guess not heaven, but not purgatory. It's between the two. I don't know what you would call that. But when they're there kissing and having the time of their lives, things are great. They've achieved their American dream. But here's the thing about late-stage capitalism, the American dream doesn't really exist. But there's something incredibly intriguing about Annie and her will to get things to work for her. She is a hustler who's being hustled and is trying to outdo the hustle in real time. It's really amazing to watch someone just so smart and so cunning like an alley cat figure out how to survive. And it's not even she's trying to survive, she's trying to maintain her pride that she has about who she is as a person, especially when everyone's degrading her and dismissing her and demonizing her for being an exotic dancer and a sex worker. Honey, it's a job, okay? And where's yours, Ivan? Where's your job? And the reason this movie has such Oscar buzz behind it is simply because Baker has made these very complex themes and subject matters very digestible for the audience. He's telling you exactly how you should feel about something in the moment. He's telling you that you are wrong for projecting thoughts or these preconceived notions about Annie onto her because of her work. The goons are looked at as home invaders, but really they're just everyday guys, one who's working as a priest, who are just trying to like look good and still get paid at the end of the day, you know, to continue living the lives that they created for themselves and their families. And these taboo subjects are presented in such a way that is very reminiscent of like Midnight Cowboy, which is the only X-rated film to ever win Best Picture. Think about that. And when you watch that movie, you don't even see anything. Well, I don't think you see anything. The reason it got an X rating is so outdated. I also love the vulnerability of Anora. When the lights are dimmed and the flashy clothing is put away and you are left with the cold morning and the isolation of it all, what endures is like the humanity of people reaching out and your community surrounding you. It's a subtle reminder that the only thing we have at the end of the day is ourselves and our community. And even if you're trying to climb up the social ladder, it's like you can't appreciate how you got somewhere without accepting who you are. And Annie has done that. Annie has accepted who she is, and she's not trying to conform to other people's notions of who she is because she owns it. She knows it. She gets it. It's the people who are not confident in who they are as people who end up having issues. Even in the ending, when Annie is playing into this role that people think of her in, she can't accept it because she doesn't. That's not who she is. And there is a little glimmer of hope at the end, but it's so emotionally complex and so emotionally taxing to both the actors in the scene and for the audience that you're left paralyzed in your seat after the credits start rolling. In my theater, it was a packed theater and the lights came on and we were all deeply afraid to move because we were afraid we're gonna break this magic that this movie had on us. It's really phenomenal to have that experience, I think, in cinema, and I think that's deeply important. And I'm still sitting here days later trying to figure out what feeling I was left with. And I'm trying to break that down as I think about it. This movie is not perfect. I'm praising this movie, but I will say there are things about it that kind of irk me a little bit. This movie's called Anora. Remember that. And yet, Anora often gets pushed to the background. And so we don't see how Annie is like transforming as a character. We quickly figure out this is not a character motivated narrative. But yet Mikey Madison has clocked in for her shift. She is working double time and she is acting her actual ass off. And honestly, I'm here for it. Anytime the camera looks at her and she is looking at us in the eyes, I'm like, oh, I'm sad. Tell me what I am to be told. I really have to applaud all the performances in this movie, even the small ones like Diamond, who just is drinking an empty Yoo-hoo for like the entirety of this movie. I'm obsessed with her. She's amazing. And like I said, I am paralyzed by the ending. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I don't know exactly what Baker was trying to do with the ending. He won't tell anybody. He's keeping it a secret, lock and key. And I respect it. I'm annoyed by it because I want answers. But maybe we'll have an answer by the end of this. So yeah, let's break down the plot. So this is your spoiler warning. I understand that this movie isn't showing all across the US. It's a very limited release. And yet I highly recommend that you watch it if you can. If not, I have a really great plot breakdown for you, so. But it's ending, oh, I can't even like translate how amazing the ending of this movie is. Like, but enough of the spoiler warning, let's get into it. So we meet Annie. Annie is short for Anora, if that's kind of what you're like, but I thought her name was Anora. It is, but she goes by Annie. And she is a sex worker and exotic dancer at the HQ. And she's classy, she has butterflies on her nails, not dollar signs like her other coworkers. And she is not drinking an empty Yoo-hoo, which again, that's criminal. That is literally criminal. Do it at home. Get it away from me. Don't drink chocolate milk at the strip club. Ugh. And the movie opens showing us how good Annie is at her job. Like, she is hustling left and right. She is enticing customers to go to the local ATM and get some money out so they can get a private room with her. And she's working overtime and she knows she is talented. Even when she gets confronted by her rival, which is the Yoo-hoo drinker, she's like, I don't know what your problem is. Maybe if you were better at your job, your regulars wouldn't come to me. I love the way this scene was shot. Baker kind of breaks it down for Vanity Fair and he's like, yeah, we just put a mic on Madison and like let her walk around this room while we had a DJ playing and people were gabbing and we let her improv hustling people. And I was like, talented. And Madison was really working on this character. She was working hard. She was going to clubs and she's talking to the girls and learning about what it is to be an exotic dancer. And I love that for her. I love that she did so much work for this character because she like truly understands Annie's character and her trajectory through this entire story. Baker quickly establishes that the night is like the safe haven of this story because during the day, that shit looks gloomy. Her commute home is not glamorous and she lives in Brighton Beach and she lives under a train track. And guys, could not be me and she has to sleep through the day with no blackout curtains? It's obvious that Annie wants more, and we want her to have more because she is working hard. She's a hardworking lady, but yet this is the hand she's been dealt. At her next shift, Annie's been working hard and she's on her lunch break, but her boss comes to the back and he's like, hey, I need you. And she's like, I'm eating my salad. He's like, well, you're the only girl here who can speak Russian, and a guy wants a girl who can speak Russian. So like TikTok on the clock, let's go. But this is where Annie meets Ivan, who also goes by Vanya throughout the entire film. And he is a, como se dice, fucking idiot. But caveat, he's rich. And he's like rich. Why is he rich? Because his father is a Russian oligarch. And Annie knows it, and she's just like, oh, got it. Got it. Give me money. And he's like, oh, I'll give you all my money, please. And this is why learning a second language is important. Take it from the girl who took 8 years of Spanish and who can't speak Spanish whatsoever. It's hard. And this is when we get to see like that Vanya has this idea of American dream in his head where he's just like, I want to be an American because I love partying. And it's not like he wants to be an American to be an American, because guys, being an American is like, but he wants to be an American simply because he can avoid Russia and his responsibilities. And I get it. As a girl who is just a girl, I also want no responsibilities, like half the time. After the private dance, Vanya is like, hey, do you make house calls? And Annie's like, of course I do, for money. And he's like, well, I have money and I think you're really cute. Come to my house. The next day, Annie gets picked up by Vanya's chauffeur. And oh my God, you guys, he has a mansion in the middle of this like suburban neighborhood. And Annie's looking around and she's like, but Vanya cuts straight to the chase. He's like, so let's go upstairs. And he's an eager beaver. And Annie has to keep up and she's like, okay, chill out. She admires the view and they hook up and he's like, sick. I love this. So after Vanya and Annie hook up, Annie goes back to work and she's like, guys, this shit fucking rocks. And he invited me to his New Year's party. And she's like, the best part is that I'm bringing you, my best friend, with me to the New Year's party that he's throwing. At the New Year's party, we kind of see the more of a dynamic going on. Annie's like really intrigued by Vanya and his like gassery that he has going for him. He's doing whatever the hell he wants because, you know, repercussions, what are they? Never heard of them. And then Vanya's like, hey, what if you spend the night with me? And she goes, well, I have holiday rates. And he goes, great, I'll pay him. The next morning, afternoon, and he's like, oh, I gotta go to work. It's already like 5 p.m. I gotta go. And he's like, whoa, what if I was your only client and you didn't have to go to work for like a full week? And she's like, yes, for $10,000. And he's like, that's it? And she's like, oh, 15, I meant $15,000. And he goes, you should have said 30, deal. During their like full week of being in a love fest, they are having the time of their life, going to a candy store, yelling at a woman who's swimming in the middle of the winter in the ocean. And they're also partying with a bunch of like Vanya's friends. And someone offhandedly mentions that Vegas has like the best ketamine that they've ever had in their entire life. And so he's like, oh, let's go to Vegas. And so everyone's in Vegas having more fun, you know, because it's Vegas. What else are you gonna do when you're like 21 and 23 and living the life? And while not all of Vanya's friends see Annie as anything more than like a sex worker and an escort, Vanya is smitten hard. He's smitten so hard that he's like, I wish I could stay in America forever. What if we got married? And Annie's like, oh, how serious about this are you? And he's like, I'm pretty serious. And she's like, well, you are rich. What if you got me a 3-carat ring? And he's like, what about 4? And she's like, okay, deal. So they end up getting married at the Little White Chapel, a little iconic if you ask me. And then they're celebrating hard on Fremont Street with fireworks all behind them. And guys, it is actually really cute. And I think it's very fun and very fresh. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that like the guy who plays Vanya is the cutest little fucking motherfucker I've ever seen. I don't know what else to say at this point. He's so charismatic and adorable, and he's like a Timothy Chalamet skinny Russian boy, and I adore him even though he is the most immature thing that's ever existed on this planet. I will also say the entire time I was watching this movie and I saw Fremont Street, I kept thinking about this restaurant that's over by the Hard Tack Grill called Nacho Daddy, and I think about these buffalo nachos that I had for my 21st birthday. I dream about them every day. If you're in Vegas and you can go to Nacho Daddy, get that scorpion shot from me. If you can, only of age people. So you might be wondering, why is Annie marrying this man-child? Guys, read between the lines. He's rich. And like, to be completely fair, she doesn't have that many prospects like on her list simply because she is a working girl. And all the guys who do like her are married, most likely, or old. So when you have a 21-year-old who's not married, who's super duper rich and like likes having you around and is like, I want to marry you, that's like a really good offer. After the wedding, Annie quits her job and she moves in with Vanya, and she is dedicated to being his wife. And I would be too if he bought me a Russian sable fur coat. Are you kidding me? I feel like I should get my fur coat on. I am now Annie now that she's married. Anywho, so Annie and Vanya are married and they are like in honeymoon bliss. Are you kidding me, guys? It's love. I love love. But word of their marriage spreads to the Russian tabloids and it gets back to his parents. And they're just like, oh, no. So Toros, an Armenian who is hired to babysit Vanya while he's studying abroad in America, is given the call of like, hey, make sure this is real. And he's like, okay, got it. He's a priest who's in the middle of a baby's baptism. So he has to send Garnik to go check in on Vanya and be like, what the fuck is actually happening? Garnik brings another goon with him named Igor. And guys, I love Igor. When they go to the house, Vanya's being a little brat and won't let them in. Annie thinks they're getting invaded by some Armenian men. And they're like, bro, we have to make sure that like your marriage is real or fake. When they find out that the marriage is real, Toros is like, are you fucking kidding me? And he has to leave the baptism to go fix everything. Now Vanya's parents are on the way from Russia to the States to pick up their son and take him back to Russia because his American vacation is fucking over. When Vanya gets word that he's getting taken back to Russia, he goes, oh, wait, ooh, I don't wanna. And so he runs away without Annie. Annie, who is still under the impression that she is getting her home invaded, is losing her absolute shit. She starts going ham on these Armenians. She breaks Garnik's nose. She pushes him through a table. She breaks a bunch of shit in the living room, essentially destroying all of it. And Igor gets bitten once and he's like, oh, I'm tying her up. And he ties her up. And it looks like she's about to get murdered. Okay, guys, this is too hot. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna put this on the back of the chair, but like, it's so hot. When Toros arrives, Annie has to be gagged because she is screaming her fucking head off because she's like, I'm getting murdered, like actually getting murdered. And Toros is like, this is the biggest headache of my entire life. Are you kidding me? After gagging her with a scarf, they kind of calmly tell her like, hey, you're gonna get this marriage annulled and we'll give you $10,000 and this will be the end of your marriage. And she has to say yes because like what else is she gonna do in this moment? But she's insistent. She goes, I love my fucking husband. We are going to stay married forever. I will say I am truly obsessed with Annie's like ability to sell this fantasy that she has of like being a rich Russian American man's wife. I would also be in that state of delusion, and I honestly think that's how you achieve things in this life, is with a certain level of delusion. You can't have like main character syndrome because I think that's like really problematic to you and the people around you, but I think if you have a delusion of like I've already succeeded, then you can't fail. But Annie accepts this deal because like what else is she gonna do? And Toros takes her fucking wedding ring. Bro. And now the gang is off to go find Vanya because he's fucking gone. And this is where the screwball comedy of it all comes together. And when I mean screwball, guys, I mean like absolute fucking screwball. Like we're breaking shit at the candy shop because no one's listening to anybody. Toros is not letting his car get towed. And so he just like he like rips the entire front end off just to get it off. And he goes, everyone in the car. Garnik, who's like losing his mind and getting the gnarliest black eyes ever because his nose is broken, relapses and is starting to do drugs and drink to like numb the pain because guys, his nose is broken and they refuse to take him to the hospital. And the whole time Igor is like trying to take care of Annie. He's like, you should wear this scarf because it is really cold. And she's like, I'm not wearing the scarf that you gagged me with. Are you crazy? And then she goes, ooh, this fur coat isn't keeping me warm enough. Give me the scarf. So he's taking care of like everybody. He's being the absolute mom of the group in this like hijinks fest that this is. But like they cannot find Vanya to save their fucking lives. Like he is gone. But you wouldn't believe where Vanya ends up. I'll give you a hint. It's where Annie used to work 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that's right. He goes back to HQ. And you know who clocked him walking in? And Yoo-hoo girl Diamond. Girl, like give it a break. And she already like put a bad omen on their relationship, giving I give it 2 weeks. And now that she sees Vanya in the club, she's like, oh, I think I'm going to ruin Annie's life even more. Annie gets a text from her friends that like, hey, Vanya's at the club. You better come and get him. She's like, got it. So they go to HQ to find him. And one of her friends meets her at the front and she's like, oh, I have bad news to tell you. He's in a private room with Diamond. And Annie's like, are you f***ing serious? And she breaks into the room and she finds Vanya and she's like, the dance is over, girls. Pack it up. I need to talk to my husband. But guess what, guys? He's too inebriated because he went on a bender. Because he's like, my last night in America, gotta live it up. But Annie's like trying to get it through his head. She's like, you need to tell them that you love me and that you want to stay with me, or they're going to make us annul our entire marriage, and you're gonna have to go back to Russia, and I'm gonna have to go back to the house under the train tracks in Brighton Beach, and I don't want that. But there's only so much you can do when there's 3 goons escorting you around. So yeah, Vanya and Annie are trying to leave the establishment, and Miss Yoo-hoo is like not having it. She's like, I want my full paycheck for the hour of a private room. What the heck? And she's trying to get in Annie's face, and Annie's like, I don't have time for this. And she decks Yoo-hoo in the face. And then it starts an all-out brawl between the girls. And I thought this was a classy establishment. But they get out of there. Annie survives with just a little scratch on her face. And Toros and the gang are at the courthouse. At the annulment, guys, it is messy. Vanya is drunk. He's about to throw up on everything. Annie is like, let me talk out of line because guess what? I am married to my husband and we love each other and they're forcing it upon us. We were married in Vegas. And the lawyer goes, wait, Vegas? You guys can't get divorced in New York. You're not married in New York. You gotta go to Vegas. And Toros was like, you're kidding me. But they don't have time to go to Vegas because Vanya's parents have just touched down in the concrete jungle where dreams are made of. It's obvious at the first meeting that Vanya's mother is not having it with anybody. She's a so-called business bitch and I love her for it, and she is stomping around in the boots, leaving her husband behind on the PJ, and she's like, where is my son? When she sees her son, she's trying to like console him and be like, are you okay, you fucking idiot? And Annie's like, hi, it's so nice to meet you. Here's my elementary Russian, but at least I'm trying. And Vanya's mom refuses to look at her and she's like, ugh, your Russian is embarrassing. And Annie is really trying to salvage this marriage. She's like, hi, I am so sorry that this has been a train wreck. I'm sorry that you guys are like, had to fly all the way here and see your son being inebriated, but I love him. I think he's amazing. And everyone's like, can you stop talking? You are just an escort. And I'm like, the manners. Are they in the room with us now? Everybody this entire movie has been like constantly degrading her or like demonizing her for being what they call a prostitute. And she's like, where is the humanity? Where is the dignity? Like, where is the professionalism? Like, nobody respects her. And she's like, I deserve respect because I'm 1, married to him, and 2, I am a woman. I deserve some ounce of respect from you. But I guess not everybody feels that way. Toros tells the family, they're like, hey, we gotta go to Vegas to like annul the wedding. And they're like, okay, everybody back on the PJ. And Annie's like, no, I'm gonna go get a lawyer and I'm gonna make this a very lengthy divorce proceeding. And Vanya's mom's like, ooh, I think you are gonna get on this plane or I'm going to ruin your entire fucking life. Annie doesn't have much, so she's like, okay, fine, whatever. So they all go to Vegas, but it's Vegas during the day. So it's like stinky Vegas. It's like not the Vegas you wanna be at. On the plane there, Annie has like fully resigned any hope of like saving this marriage. And she's like, my American dream is dead. And Vanya's like, my American dream is dead. And they're finished signing the papers that have annulled the marriage. And oh my God, Igor stands up and he's like, I think Vanya owes Annie an apology. And everyone's like, what do you mean? Like, what is an apology? I don't think so. And he's like, I don't want an apology, but I would love one. And Vanya's mom is like, no, trash does not deserve anything. And oh, that sets Annie off. And she is not having it with the girls. She's like, you, I hope you die and rot in hell and take your ugly ass fur coat back. And Bunny is like, I have no idea what's happening. Here, random lady, please have this coat. I don't want it. And she's like, is this real? That's my favorite line delivered in the entire movie, is her going, is this real? Love her to bits. I love her. That would be me in this cinematic universe, to be completely honest with you. Like, completely oblivious and then like come into one big thing of wealth. And I'd be like, yeah, I'll take it. Igor is taking Annie back to New York and they're flying economy and it looks rough. There's a crying baby. Everyone's asleep and this guy has his like window open. That is the rudest thing to do. If everyone's asleep and it's daylight, put your window down. I'm sorry, the etiquette. But Igor is being a real king out here. He covers up Annie with his jacket and he's like, I hope this helps a little bit. And guys, I would die for this man. Literally would die for him. Annie gets to spend one last night in her ex-husband's family mansion. And she is literally gonna be like, I'm watching news and eating soup and smoking a cigarette with Igor. And Igor is just like, I really like your name. I think you're pretty cool. And she's like, what's your problem? Is it your birthday or something? Like, why are you like kind of chipper right now? And he's like, actually, it's not my birthday. Yesterday was my birthday. And she's like, oh. But he admits that he likes Annie despite like her hard exterior that she has and this like prideful like boasting that she does of like, she's okay, she's independent, she's Miss. And she's like, I don't have time for you. I have to go to bed. But I will tell you that Igor has me in like a literal chokehold. Like the next morning, Igor goes with Annie and gives her the 10K that she was promised to get the marriage annulled. And on the way back home, Igor is taking all her suitcases up to the front door while she sits in the car because it's snowy, it's chilly, and she's like, I don't want to abandon this fantasy that I had of like this life I was gonna live, and now I'm back to like square one. Like, what is this? And Igor gets back in the car and he's like, I understand. I feel you on a certain level, and that's why I stole the wedding ring for you to have. According to Rotani.com, guys, that's like $50,000. Igor is proving that he is the man of this movie, and I'm beyond obsessed with him. And he's like, you know what? Everyone thinks I'm a prostitute. I'm gonna think you like one. And so she starts initiating sex with him, and he goes to kiss her because he's like, you are more than that to me. And she goes, ugh, and then starts sobbing. And he's like, I got you, girl. And she sobs in his arms. Cue the credits. The end. The Anora. Guys, the ending is so chef's kiss. It's like she tries to, again, be this prideful, boasting character. And Igor is like, I'm not having any of this shit. I see you, girl. But for me, this really is like the best film of the year. It's subtle. It's funny. There's so much happening. It is a very plot-heavy movie for what I assumed was going to be a character-driven narrative. But, you know, I'm okay with it. Is it a perfect movie? No, it's a Sean Baker movie. It can't be perfect, but that's what's fun about art. That's what's great about cinematic movies like this. It's like, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for something that emotionally moves me, that's something that's great. And I really feel like this movie is worth all of our time and should be celebrated on like the highest stage that it can. It really deserves everything and more. And I'm gonna get tattooed onto my heart. And this is why this movie is getting an A. I know it's not perfect. It's not getting an A+. It's getting an A for sure. And it might be my only movie of the year that gets an A. So that's like, I'm speaking highly about this. I really, really loved it. I think, oh my God, Neon, you really did it. We gotta thank Neon. Neon didn't do this movie. It was Sean Baker solely, like fully. We love him to bits and pieces, and all of his collaborators, especially Mikey Madison, like God bless. But Neon is the reason why this film got distributed, and if it made merch for it, like I would buy it immediately. But as I said earlier, I highly recommend you watch it. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much for staying all the way to the end. I really love and appreciate you. If you could leave a like, comment, or even subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thanks. You can also let me know what movies I should check out. I'm always looking to be entertained, and I might either recap them here on the main channel, or it will be featured in my monthly recap, which you could also check out my last one, and right here, I'll link it. Currently, I'm watching my partner play Death Stranding, so I'm in desperate need for some good entertainment, guys. Please help a girl out. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Say bye. Bye.